Mic check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and I dropped a video earlier talking about how Sony and the PlayStation 4 aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And I got a lot of comments on that video, and a lot of people have been saying that they do not see the need to pick up a PlayStation 5 because the PlayStation 4 is doing everything that they need it to do, and the bulk of the Sony PlayStation 5's catalog can be played on the PlayStation 4. And it just kind of, you know, it kind of solidified some of what I was feeling. Now, obviously, the few commenters that commented on my video don't make up the majority of gamers out there in the world. And, did I exaggerate on some of the prices earlier with it being 700 and 800? Of course. Maybe that's what people were playing for the PlayStation 5 during, lockdown. But that's definitely not what people are paying for that console now. Nevertheless, I was in a pawn store today. I was actually looking for a camera lens, and they had PlayStation 4s in there, and then they also had a PlayStation Portal in there. And the Portal was intriguing to me just because of how it looked. But from what I've heard and seen, I think it's something that you really have to have connected to the internet. It doesn't, you can't really use interchangeable cartridges with it or discs with it. And it's pretty much a situation where it's almost like a tablet with controllers on the ends of it. And I don't know how appealing that is to the current gamer, right? For it to be a gaming console that's mobile, it has to be better than the Switch, in my opinion. And if it's going to be something that you can only download games to, well, then it's going to be competing with things like the Steam Deck and other download only handheld systems. And I heard, or I'm hearing that Sony is considering releasing a new handheld that's independent of a console. Not the way the PlayStation Portal is really more so dependent on having a PlayStation 5 and being connected to the internet, but rather Sony's thinking about releasing its own independent handheld console. And we've seen two from Sony. Now, obviously, there's been different variations of these two, but in a nutshell, Sony first released to us the PlayStation Portable, which was a game changer. Sony changed the game with this handheld because even if there were devices out there that did things similar to the PSP, they did not execute it as well as the PSP did. In terms of graphics, in terms of, having this little piece here that serves as an analog, the D-pad, the buttons, the controls, the sound, the PSP was amazing. And then Sony took it to the next level when they released the Vita, right? And so with the Vita, you got the, you've got the dual analog, you've got the touch screen or the touchpad on the back, you've got the multimedia feature. That screen still looks beautiful even to this day. I mean, I think the size of this thing is almost perfect. It's not as big and as bulky as a Switch, but it's not as small as a PSP, so where you have to squint. This is almost like the perfect size for a handheld because it genuinely fits in your hand. Whereas, something like a Switch, for a person with small or medium-sized hands, they might struggle holding a Switch. And then like a PSP almost feels too small. It almost feels like a cell phone. This is probably about the size of a lot of cell phones these days. So the Vita, in my opinion, from a form factor perspective, was ideal to me. Just the screen is perfect and it does exactly what you need it to do. Now, if Sony were to decide to drop a new handheld system that wasn't as big or as large as like a Steam Deck or as large as a Switch, but maybe this size or maybe just a smidgen bigger, and if it was something that used interchangeable cartridges or interchangeable discs, or it was its own standalone system that games were being released for it, I think that would be the game changer that we're looking for. Because we haven't really seen a game-changing dedicated handheld device since the release of the Switch. handheld systems have kind of been like, we haven't really seen anything really compete with the Switch. And that's why Nintendo was so smart, because they changed the game with the Switch. But I think Sony could do some real damage and really draw a lot of intrigue from gamers if they were to release a new dedicated handheld system that had that visual fidelity we're looking for, that had the processing power that we're looking for, that had the sound quality that we're looking for, and of course had those media functions. Yes, we do want it to be able to connect to Wi-Fi, and we want to be able to stream from it, and and I think that Sony has the ability to incorporate all of those features. But I think, even more so, if the device comes with a way to wirelessly project onto a screen, or wirelessly tether to a screen, where you can use the handheld without having to connect or hook up anything, right? So wireless docking, something like that, I think would be a game changer. I mean, the Switch, yeah, you can dock your Switch station and then play the games on the screen, but imagine if you were able to do some type of wireless docking or some remote docking, to where you can project what you're playing on your handheld onto a screen and do it in a way where everyone can either see what you're playing, or more people can partake. Or if multiple people had their Sony handhelds with them, then everybody could, one person could, whether it be tether or mirror onto a TV screen, and then everyone can join in with their own and do it that way. I think, for me, as I think about it, that's the next innovation. Wireless, like a wireless docking station, a wireless, and maybe that exists. Somebody let me know down in the comment. Maybe that exists and I'm just becoming an old fart and I'm not hip to technology. But I think if Sony were to release a handheld that had some of those features, all of the multimedia features we like, great controls, an amazing form factor, 4K processing, wireless or remote docking, still being able to use interchangeable cartridges to probably be that last stand of physical media, I think that would really draw in a lot of gamers and bring a lot of people back out of what feels like the woods right now. I know the PlayStation 5 has been out for quite some time, but I'm in GameStop a lot. And I never feel like I never see a crowd around the PlayStation 5 section. Never. I'll always see people standing around the Switch section. I'll see people around the PlayStation 4 section. I never see a crowd around the PlayStation 5 section. I never see someone coming in and buying up a bunch of PlayStation 5 games. Still, I'm not saying it's never going to happen. I just don't see it in my area. But that could just be me. But let me know what you think. What do you think about Sony releasing a new dedicated handheld system with interchangeable cartridges or interchangeable discs? What features would you want to see on it? What features do you think would be groundbreaking and would draw people back into the handheld space? I'm interested to know your thoughts. It's been a Sony kind of day. Hope you're having a good Tuesday, and I'll catch you on the next one. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.